Well, man, oh man, this is it. The last video of 2022. What a crazy year it's been. I don't know if it was, I don't know. Maybe because COVID 2020 was such like a long, sort of slow year where it felt like a dog year, like 7 years. That 2022 went like a blip, like, and it could just be I'm getting old, but actually it's not because my kids are saying the same thing. They're blown away that this year went by this fast. So I don't know. When the scripture says a day is like 1,000 years to the Lord, I guess it means it. All right. So I know everyone's doing their festivities. You're probably not many people want to watch this today, and that's fine. I just wanted to. I hesitated making a video today. I was like, I don't need to make a video. But I thought, I've been reading and watching a lot of stuff. And not necessarily watching a lot of people do these end of the year sort of wrap up type things, or they'll do them tomorrow on January 1st, kind of do the year in review and make predictions for the year and all that. I'm not going to do that on this video. I'm going to ramble a little bit, but there's some stuff I just thought in thinking about 2022 and just watching and just hearing what people are talking about. I had this idea, like many of you are aware of, if you play any games, you have to be aware of the game Grand Theft Auto. All right. Grand Theft Auto is sort of this epic game. Came out years ago. I mean, this game has been out for a while. There's like tons of variations of this game, Grand Theft Auto. And I realized as I was thinking about this morning, the game, and sort of, I played it years ago. It's not really my type of game now, but I mean, years ago I played it. But I thought about the game and thought about how much of the game Grand Theft Auto, like we're always trying to figure out like what is influencing culture and society, right? Now we know if you're a believer, if you're from the Christian tradition like I am, then you know that, the Bible tells us, Paul in Ephesians 6, for we do not wrestle against flesh and blood. This is Ephesians 6:12, but against the principalities, rulers of this age, and so forth, right? So he's bringing us into the spiritual warfare component. And so I totally see the world from a non-flesh and blood perspective, but everything plays out in sort of the flesh and blood, culture that we live in, right? We live in the material world, not the immaterial world. So I was thinking about Grand Theft Auto, the game, and realizing how much of America, since that game came out 10, 12 years ago, how much of that game has become what American society really is. And I thought, wow, what a fascinating, the phrase art imitates life, right? Where it's like what people like, a lot of people do this in music, particularly rap music. When we just talking about what happens in our cities, right? We're just communicating what's happening in the neighborhoods we're from. So there's always this weird dynamic of how much is art imitating life or life imitating art. And I think they work together. I don't think it's always art and so forth. It's always entertainment. These things become our realities. And so I was watching someone and they made a point that I thought was interesting, and paraphrasing what they said, but here was the point they said. She said this. She said, when you look at society and you look at what's happening in our culture, the devaluing, I'm paraphrasing, I'm saying it my own way, but the devaluing of human life, right? And particularly in the black community, in all these communities, right? We've seen a number of, black, rap artists and stuff be killed, athletes being robbed and shot. We've seen a rise in mass shootings, and these aren't by black people too. You got guys going into Buffalo supermarkets and going into gay clubs and just different in Colorado and just all over. And you see like, man, how much of this is really the culture of black music or the culture of this or the culture of that. Now, we know that the enemy's behind these things, but just looking at it from a very sort of how he works through society. When you really think about where we're at as a nation headed into 2023, now think about this for a moment. America established itself as a nation in 1776, the American Revolution, fought against England to establish its own independence. So July 4th is Independence Day, right? America is independent of England. We no longer are our own established country. The colonies no longer exist. So if you think about from 1492 or 1619, let's say from when the 1607, from when the settlers came, to 1776, right? You got America, these 13 colonies eventually, and then they kind of and then you have this issue happen in the war, 1776 and beyond, right? You have this other dynamic until you get to the present day. And America in 1776 established itself as a country about freedom, right? You got the Declaration of Independence, the Bill of Rights, the Constitution, all these things that make up what America is. Underneath all of that is this sense that we're largely a nation that believes in Jesus Christ, right? So you have all this wickedness going on at the time. You got slavery, wars, mistreatment of the poor, of women, all these things happen in America. And then you finally get to a point where slavery's gone, Jim Crow is gone, women, suffrage happens, women can vote, women can have bank accounts, immigrants can come to the country and do all these things, right? So all the things that America promised, that people are now saying, this is who America is, we all have access to those things now, right? So from the beginning of the nation, from the founding of the nation in 1776 to today, you could say all of the things that held us back in the past are gone. Even the laws are gone. That's what everyone says. If you're not successful, you're playing the victim, everything is gone, okay? So we're the freest our country has ever been. Whatever America was striving to be, this is the closest we've gotten to what those promises are. Okay, that's what everyone's saying. You know, we're a free country, this and that, no slavery, no racism, all these things. Okay, let's just say that's all true. If you look at the state of our country, now mind you, this is the freest we've ever been. It's kind of a mess, though, right? We're the most violent nation. We have the highest rate of serial killers. So we're a good country. We're a better nation than everyone else, at least according to us. We have the highest, prison population, all these different things. So you think, like, how do we get to this point? Like, how does a nation that has gotten through all of this supposed evil and laws have changed and we're free and everyone in meritocracy and everyone can do what they want, and if you are not successful, it's your own fault and all these things. But yet, if this is the freest America is this something, as a believer, if you're a believer, is this like, wow, we're excited? Like when you look at the state of our nation, right? Are you excited? Like, this is it. No more slavery, no more Jim Crow. Women are in positions of power, There's still battles to fight and all that, but we've accomplished the utopia that the founding fathers were writing about, apparently. And when you look around, you think, man, is this really like, wow, And as a believer, now, if you're not a Christian, I get it. You're going to compare yourself to your other country. But believers, it's like, is this really like the land of Canaan for us? I mean, maybe in comparison to some other nations, but is this really like what we're really like proud about? Like, is this what we got here? Look at all we've been. Look, we're America. We're America first. But when we look at America, there's a lot of problems if this is the utopia that we've been talking about. So when I think about how do we get here, I think about stuff like Grand Theft Auto. And I was just thinking about, wow, we're probably at this point in our nation, we probably devalue human life more than ever before. And I'm not talking about, sure, slavery and those things and colonizations were a level of devaluing, right? But I'm thinking of like just now, like we've been so indoctrinated and celebrated violence, right? So we go, so we're not just, Grand Theft Auto has become Grand Theft America on one level. Sure, in comparison to other countries, there are going to be things that we're better than. But in light of sort of as a believer, what we're trying to grow to become in Christ, right? When you look at the country, like we really celebrate, there's a celebration of violence in our country that has led us to be a grand theft. And it's gone from, let me say this. There's a news article that I have here. I was going to do its own show on this. I still may. But it basically is a study that's shown that Americans have gotten meaner, like much more harsh, critical, and mean over the last 20 years. I didn't finish the study, but I thought, that's really interesting. When you think about the way we celebrate violence in our country. So you get, once you get out of sort of the slavery, that kind of violence, then you get into like the cowboys and Indians, the wild, wild west, the Billy the Kids and the Doc Hollidays. And there's sort of remember in the 50s and 60s, all the kids wanted to be John Wayne and be cowboys. You celebrate that. You celebrate the mafia and the violence of that. They're celebrities, these people. You celebrate that. And then it works its way into sort of Hollywood, from everything from James Dean, Rebel Without a Cause, and eventually up to Dirty Harry, all this stuff. John Wayne and his movies killing people. Then you get rap music comes in and builds on that level of violence in the black community where it's gang affiliated. You get Crips and Bloods and then all these other gangs and rap music and gangster rap and then we celebrate that still, that sells, and we want that. And then all of a sudden games come in. I'm old enough to remember when the most violent games were like dodging like digital lines from aliens and space invaders, right? Or running from these ghosts in Pac-Man. It was Pac-Man, right? It was really entertainment. Then at some point, the video games kind of started to match the sort of the ideology of a violent society, where then now the video games start off as like fight games, like Mortal Kombat, Street Fighter. I remember having Sega Genesis, and one of the first games I had was a game called Altered Beast, and I used to love that game. And then you get this Nintendo Entertainment System, and you get games like Mario, and then Kung Fu, and these Ninja Gaiden, and all these. But then all of a sudden, we get this new kind of game that really changed everything, the first-person shooter. Right, so you get like GoldenEye, 007 on the Nintendo, and it was like, wow. And it was mind blowing. And then all of a sudden, first person shooters take over, right? But they're just games, they're just entertainment. They have no impact on us. But really, when we look back, we can see a trajectory of the celebration of violence sort of passed down to even us at the time as children. I'm an adult now, obviously, but that stuff comes in. You got Hollywood. All the movies start to become, the heroes become the angry, violent rebel who doesn't listen to any authority, right? Does his own thing and does that. And so you think about all of this and you think like, wow, we really have become this society where, and we're Christian, right? Which the Bible says like, do not envy a proud man, right? It talks about like not being that way. Like we're to love our enemies and be gentle. But we've gotten to a place, even in the church, like you think, so all the violence from the movies and the games, and it just seems like, well, that's just what the kids do. Well, that's just art. Rap music, man, it's just art. It's just entertainment. Movies, it's just entertainment. Games, it's just entertainment. But then you look at now how people, then we finally get, and this isn't a political statement. This isn't a political statement, but we finally get a president, right? Donald Trump, who's unlike any other president. And when he comes in, he's so brash and so, he used to make me laugh. I mean, when he committed adultery with a woman named Stormy Daniels, who was like a porn star or something, and he called her horseface. And I'm not going to lie to you. I was dying laughing because I'm from that background where we used to call it Jonah. Well, man, your mother's so fat. We say all that stuff. We'd be outside all day laughing and all of that, right? We finally get a president like who would do this on a regular basis. And that just it was almost like, in the Old Testament, when it talked about like the kings would turn the heart of the people away from the Lord. So the evil of the king would trickle down to the evil of the people. This is actually what John Piper said as his logical conclusion as to why he can't vote for Trump, because he felt like the character of Trump, whether you agree with his policies or not, has a trickle-down effect to the people who vote for him, which would be mostly, well, not mostly, but would be largely evangelical Christians. And I've watched this culture of this celebration of this culture of violence, this Grand Theft America, work its way down even to professing believers. To now, there's so much accusation and anger and cancel culture that we're a part of. And the enemy cannot destroy the church. His goal is not to destroy the church because he can't, but what he wants to do is to make us ineffective and unfruitful. This is 2 Peter 1, right? If you are not growing in the qualities listed in 2 Peter 1, 5 through 7, he says you will become ineffective and unfruitful for the kingdom. And that's not a good look. The whole point is about the kingdom, being effective and fruitful for the kingdom. So you see this gradual, this shift where this Grand Theft Auto, the game, the entertainment, the love of celebrity and the violence and all of that sort of works its way down to even in the church, where now through social media and through computer, we sort of become this aggressive, this kind of this celebration of violence. And what's interesting is I want to bring up two quick points, and then this will be my last one. But what's interesting is this idea I have called the irony of red and blue. All right, so we know our American flag is red, white, and blue, right? That's the American flag, red, white, and blue. I don't know if this was, I don't believe in coincidence. I believe in providence, right? Or providential coincidence, meaning God reveals things that seem coincidence, but they're actually providence. And I believe that's, so I think about a providential coincidences. This is how I think of it. I don't think things are I don't think anything's random. I don't. I think things appear randomly, but they're not random. I believe God providentially works through these things that appear as coincidences. It's interesting that our flag is red, white, and blue, and it represents a certain decor of freedom and all of that. But when you look at, if you look at three different structures that use the same colors, it's really fascinating, right? So you get red and blue become the lights on the police cars, right? Police cars in particular, we know that if we see red and blue lights, we are trained to know that's police. They're the only ones that have red and blue. I think ambulances and fire trucks have red and white and stuff like that. Police are the only one with red and blue lights, right? And you look at I'm not going to get into a ton of this because there's a lot that I've said before, but if you look at police's job to serve and protect, which many of them do, don't get me wrong, they risk their lives to save us average Americans. But there's a lot of corruption. We've talked about this. We did an episode on refund the police a couple of weeks ago, Cross-Examine. And we've talked about this before, where there is this interesting dynamic where the police they're always carrying a firearm, a deadly weapon in every situation. There were clearly times where video showed a police officer did not have to kill someone, but because they feared for their safety, did so, things like that, right? So you get this weird dynamic where you see this hatred and enmity towards the red, white, and blue symbol of the police, right? Because on every police car, no matter what jurisdiction you're in, no matter what color your uniform is, those lights have red and blue, right? Those, to some people, represent violence, right? Some people, they represent the stopping of violence, and they deter violence. Without police, we would be in big trouble. I'm not a get rid of the police dude. But they do also represent violence. And there are communities where they hate those red and blue lights because they represent violence, right? Then you get into the next red and blue, which I think is a fascinating transition. So red and blue, the colors on our flag, red, white, and blue. Red and blue transitions to police officers who use those lights. And then the next red and blue that really emerges becomes political. The Republicans and the Democrats, right? Red Republicans, blue Democrats. And essentially what's supposed to be a political system that works together for checks and balances has, at least by today, as of December 31st, 2022, has become a system of sort of constitutional violence, right? They hate each other, and they hate the people that vote for those people. And so there is a lot of politics, and one of the biggest mistakes I think that is made in the Constitution and in the Bill of Rights, and sort of what qualifies these Republicans and these senators is they get to be lifelong. So if you hate the Democrats from 1974 or you hate the Republicans, you can carry that grudge for the next 40 years. We think we're voting in, people who have our best interest, but this is a different topic, but I'm going to throw this in right now. But we're really voting in corporate sponsorship. Lobbyists is a $3.7 billion a year industry. Lobbyists are people who work for corporations that appear in front of senators to basically plead the case of the corporation who gives these people money for their campaigns. They plead the case so that you vote corporate tax breaks and other things that benefit the country. They're not benefiting you and I. Me and you pay more taxes than Donald Trump and other people. But that's a different conversation. Y'all don't want that smoke. That's a different kind of smoke. But you see this red and blue, right? So even the country is divided into red and blue states. And it's all just constitutional violence. They hate each other. They've always been at odds, but it's become more and more. And Donald Trump contributed to that. He came in and went after the left when he was the left almost his whole life. He was in the Democrats, supported abortion, gave money to these companies, all of it. He becomes president, and then all the people on the right, they're like, yeah, we hate the left. And so now all evil in the country is the left and economic and it's become constitutional violence, right? So you get the red and blue flag, which really, after it was created, was celebrating the violence of the war that gave America its liberation. But then underneath that was violence towards Africans and black people and natives, indigenous people and different people, right? You get that. Then you get the police represent sort of red and blue, right? The lights, and they represent. Then you get Congress. They represent red and blue, and the country is literally divided into red and blue states. You didn't ask for that. They didn't ask us, hey, what color do you want? We just got divided into red and blue states. And then you see one more red and blue that comes in, and then that's the gangs, the Crips and the Bloods. In the late 70s, early 80s, you see, like, out of all the colors that they grasp onto the red and the blue, right? Crips, blue, Bloods, red. And this becomes the beginning of there were gangs before then. You had mafia and different things like that. So it's not that we can go back to the old school violence of the Wild West. But what you get in the urban communities now is these two gangs represented by these colors, red and blue. And they start basically a hailstorm of taking over the nation. That in 1986, this movie Colors came out starring Sean Penn and Robert Duvall and some other actors that are still around today. This movie detailed the colors of the two gangs. So the red, white, and blue lights whose laws are given to them by the red, white, and blue politicians are now targeting these two red and blue gangs, right? Rightly so, they're committing violence and things like that. But you see, like, what is it about this color, the affinity of red and blue? So here you got Crips and Bloods become the nationwide manifestation of what it means to be a gang affiliation. And you get NWA comes out, but they were wearing all black though, straight out of Compton, but they understood Crips and Bloods became the foundation for gangs in America. Now, obviously there's tons of other gangs that have spurred on from that. In DC, where I'm from, it wasn't about colors, it was about streets. It was about O Street versus Kennedy Street or this neighborhood, Bellhaven versus this neighborhood, this area. It became more about areas than it was like colors, but the idea of red and blue became synonymous with Crips and Bloods gang violence. It just blows my mind when you think about it. Because again, like I said, I don't believe in coincidence. I believe in providential coincidence. So I don't think it's just a random reality. It's not the Big Bang of American culture where you have a flag that is red, white, and blue. Then you have police that are supposed to stop violence but are also violent. They use red and blue. You have politics. They're going to war as well, red and blue, and then you have the streets, right? Red and blue. It's ironic. It's ironic. More I could say about that, but this is just sort of an end video. I'm not supposed to be. I don't want to get something to happen to me, right? All right. Last thing I think that as I'm thinking about America and just the reality of what's happening. Another thing I've seen happen, and I think this is a part of the sort of Grand Theft Auto, right? So Grand Theft Auto / Grand Theft America, right? One of the ways that Grand Theft Auto was brilliant in is everyone could be killed. Everyone was the same in Grand Theft Auto. You could be, unless you would be the police, you're running from the police, you're trying to shoot them, outrun them. You can run over and kill anyone in the street, right? That was sort of the fun of Grand Theft Auto, is you would just be balling, and you would just run people over and just kill them, all right? And so it just turned everyone into sort of the same thing, except for you. You could even shoot, not in every one of the gangs, but you could even shoot the mafia or whoever you were associated with, right? Like, it just became like you against the world. Everyone was the same, and it was just you, kind of this idea. Well, I think this has become a functioning religion for many people in America. And I'm calling it monolithism. Now, me and Strack in April of this year did a show called The Myth of the Monolith. So let me just briefly explain what I mean. See, monolithism is, we all know that we're not monolithic, means we're not all the same. We don't all think the same. We don't all act the same. Like, we all have different fingerprints, all of that, right? We're not monolithic. That became a really popular phrase from black people during the last 10 years, where you had black conservatives would say stuff like, look, I don't agree with the narrative. And the narrative meant I'm not black, I don't agree with Black Lives Matter and that black people are held down because of racism. So they had to declare, if you were black, I don't fit the narrative. I'm not a part of that. This is where Candace Owens and Vodi Bakum and many other people made that clear. I don't fit the narrative. I'm not that, but I'll use my black skin to say negative things about black people because I can, because it won't be perceived in the same way it would be if it came from someone white, right? So you have this idea like, we're not monolithic. We're not monolithic. But then you would say, hey, listen, black people are monolithic. We're not monolithic. And then in the next sentence, but black people need to stop playing the victim. Well, that's a monolithic statement to me. But anyway, that's a different question. So you got this monolithism has become the way, it's a cultural, I think it's a satanic, right? It's the way that the enemy works to put everyone in sort of a Babel-esque kind of mindset where we all just treat people as if they're all the same, all monolithic. We relate to people, so it's easy to just, so you can say stuff like it's the left or the right or these people or that, like you just get thrown in these huge boxes or these huge statements. Men are this and women are this, and there's no nuance. Right? There's no nuance. It's like even the way we think about LGBTQ plus, right? Dave Chappelle a couple years ago brilliantly proved that they're not a unified front. We're grouping people together based on what we would call non-heteronormative sexualities. But they're not tight with each other. Lesbians aren't for trans women because they're thinking you're not a real woman biologically. You're coming after me in my space, we group people into these dynamics. There were a lot of people that voted for Trump that didn't agree with everything he said and weren't white supremacists. And there were a lot of people who agreed with the hashtag Black Lives Matter. They weren't Marxists and supported that. But but you could just throw everyone into this thing, right? So now you throw all people who are white and disagree with racism into white privilege. And you throw all black people who disagree, woke, right? And then you create, and now it's Christian nationalism, right? Which I think there's some truth to that. But you create these monolithic caricatures of humanity. And so it's easy to treat all these people the same way. Just like in Grand Theft Auto, you can just run people over. They can just be walking their dog and boom, you just run them over and kill them. It's a game, but you kill them, right? Because of this sort of monolithism. And one of the beautiful things about the grace of the Lord is that we talk about Jesus became a human being and he accepts people. He relates to people based on who they are and where they are, right? This is why Jesus can have a conversation with the woman at the well in John 4 and just talk to her and then go to Samaria for 2 days. This is why Jesus can tell one person, you're healed, go, your servant's been made well. Another person, he puts mud on their eyes, and he's relate. I think that was one of the ways that God showed, I'm going to relate to you based on who you are. I'm going to show you the uniqueness of the way that I've created you. Sure, you're in Christ in one sense. There is a monolithism, and that we're all human beings and all of that. But even in Christ, we're still considered the body, right? So we're not all one leg we're different body parts. So we're all a body, but we're different. There's a beauty in the diversity of seeing people differently. But what our culture does is lump everyone into the most negative monolithic terms so that we can hate all of these people. We can criticize all of these people in one fell swoop, instead of have nuance and recognize there's grace. There are some people that I disagree with that are not as bad as some of the other people who may agree with some of their perspectives. But monolithism has sort of become the new religion, and we just relate to these people in just broad strokes. The left, the right, even LGBT, they're not all on the same page. They're just not. But it takes grace. Like, one of the things that I love about grace is grace is about nuance, right? This is what I mean. In Romans 14, Paul talks about, look, one person thinks one day is holy. Another person thinks, no, every day is holy. Why are you going to judge them? He says, who are you, oh man, to judge someone? One person thinks food sacrificed to idols is bad. One person doesn't. Look, there are differences, right? There's beauty. When we give people nuance in their differences, then we are able to express grace to them in ways that the Bible commands us to have. But when we lump everyone into these monolithic terms, then we cut down genuine aspects of who God created these people to be. We just chop them down because we don't have to hear anything you have to say because you're woke or because you're a white Christian nationalist. You support white supremacy. You have white privilege. I don't have to listen to you. And it's like, wow, fam, like we've really gotten to a crazy point. I'm saying all this because I wish I could say to you that in 2023, I think the Lord's going to do something different. I don't. I'm not a pessimist. I just don't think that's going to happen. I don't believe anything changes except the calendar from December 31st to January 1st. You are the same person you were. The year may be different, but you're not. I'm not. We're the same people. And the same vitriol, the same convictions we're going to carry over to January 1st. We may psychologically think like, okay, I'm going to do something different. This is a new year. And some people do. Don't get me wrong. I need to take my weight way more seriously in 2023. And I intend to do so. But I'm still the same dude. It's not like, oh, okay, January 1st affords me like a reset. There's no reset. There's no redo. There's persevere. Christians, we don't redo. We don't reset. We keep going. A righteous man falls 7 times and he gets up 7 times. We persevere. We keep going to the end. We are Hebrews 11 people. Even though we didn't receive the things that are promised, we keep going. But I think we live in a culture where we have to understand that, our society is not after spiritual renewal. It's after moral revival. So moral revival is about trying to do better, good things. So it's like basically trying to have the kingdom without the king, right? I want heaven without the heavenly host. We don't want God involved, but we want what God says do. This is why you see people trying to create laws that seem like they're loving and good, but in reality, they're self-serving. They're self-serving. And you throw everyone who doesn't agree with this monolithism into a monolithic category. It's so fascinating. It's so fascinating. So I don't think 2023 is going to be any different, but you and I need to be. You and I, if you're of the Christian tradition, you are obligated by what God says in his word to be different, to love your enemies. Even if you think these people are my enemies, cool. I don't like drag queens at libraries either. And if I see them as enemies of my children, cool, but I'm supposed to love them. Now, what that looks like is going to play out in different ways because I'm not always in direct contact with these folks. But I think there is a sense where I don't think 2023 is going to yield anything different. And I think if you're of the Christian tradition as I am, you got to buckle up. You got to be prepared to persevere to the end. This is not lighting up. This is not going to light up. And we cannot take our cues from the monolithic culture that we live in because, broad is the road that leads to destruction and many enter through it. All right, so before I close, there's some comments over here. Let me see what's popping. There's a lot. Some people are wild, some people are not. I agree with this brother. The freer we became, the worse we became. 100%, bro. That is so good, man. So I still got a little bit of the cough. Don't forget to hit the like button. You know what I'm saying? I was trying to get 2,000 subs by January 1st. It can still happen. But I would love for you all to like and subscribe to the channel and all of that stuff. I got some good content coming in 2023, Lord willing. But I just thought, man, I don't know. But it's a lot going on in this crazy time. I appreciate you, Leon. On your live with your work after we're driving full contraceptives every single time. Salute, my bro. Salute, famo. Appreciate you, man. Lord willing, I will make it to 2023 and we'll be having some content there. Strack and I will be back next week with cross-examining and all that. But, I just, again, think through what we were talking about. I just think the irony of red and blue, and I just think that stuff, the celebration of violence, sort of all of that, to me, has just contributed to us being sort of Grand Theft Auto America. That's just who we are. Grand Theft Auto America. There's just this. We gun people down, and if it's not literally gunning people down, it's verbally or digitally gunning people down. Most of the anxiety that people are experiencing in our country is from the digital nervous system. We're so connected to online stuff and so connected to what people say. I mean, think about this for a second. I haven't done this myself, but I've heard plenty of people say, I need to take a break, man, from social media. Like, how do you got to take a break from just other people's comments? Like, there are people that have been physically and emotionally, psychologically affected just by watching a lot of negativity through the comment section on Facebook or YouTube or through Twitter. Like, wow. I'm going to do a video on this soon. Just the digital nervous system is that we're all operating, and we weren't designed to be able to have access to the amount of information we have, and we minimize how much it's affecting us. But most people are struggling, man. Anxiety is at an all-time high. It's not because people are experiencing things in real life as much as they're experiencing things, what's happening with their reading, with the comments that they're getting, all this stuff online. I mean, I've watched so many studies of we're going to talk about this soon, Strack and I, next cross-examine. There are people who are suing social media companies like Facebook and Instagram because they basically are saying that they've manipulated their daughters and their children into these false senses of identity that cause them to have like bulimia and anorexia. This is what do you mean? Like, how are you that influenced by what other people say on a social media thing? It's because we all have these digital nervous systems now that are driving us berserk. So you'll have people be like, I got to take a break. Like, take a break from social media, fam. Not like, hey, I got a lot of stuff going on in my real life and I'm looking forward to going on vacation. But hey, guys, I'm not going to be tweeting for a while. I'm not going to be typing for a while. So I'll see you guys. And I see people pop back. Hey, been gone for 2 months, man. So refreshed. Wow. Like, what is that? There's a digital nervous system that we all have. And this is what I mean. We are living in Grand Theft Auto America. And we're just affected. So we look for things that encourage us. So I'm grateful to all of you who support this channel and who get to me through the comments. Every once in a while, I get a couple of bonehead comments, and that's going to happen. I get it. I get the occasional, why don't you lose some weight, fam? Thank you, buddy. Thank you. But for the most part, I get encouragement that you all are encouraged by what I'm saying. So I'm grateful for that. My goal is to try to go viral by being spicy with it. My goal is to try to communicate things and bring discernment to those who are of the same Christian tradition that I'm of. I'm not here to go back and forth. If you disagree with my take, man, I don't care at all. I don't even know you, fam. So if you disagree with me, I'm not going to respond to a long comment on a YouTube video that you disagree with. So what? I disagree with a lot of stuff. I just don't got the time to be writing out why I disagree. I don't care. Go on your own YouTube channel and create a channel and talk about why. But for the people who I do this for and who appreciate the way I think and trying to present things in a way that challenge the sort of status quo of thinking, thank you. Thank you. As a matter of fact, I'm not going to say this person's name, but I was really blessed by this. I've had this happen before, but it doesn't always happen. I know this is one of my longer videos. This is the last video of the year, so it's going to be long. I'm almost done though. But someone hit me on Twitter and was like, hey, how can I want to just donate. And so I was like, oh, thank you. You know, a couple of the little prayer emojis. And I just sent them my Venmo and Cash App. And I've had that happen before. All of a sudden I get the notification, you have, you know, money in your Venmo account. And I was like, wow, really? Are you serious? I was really humbled by that. This person felt like, hey, I want to. So I'm not saying this to manipulate any of you to do that. That's not. But I just thought, wow, man, this is why I kind of I'm not on Twitter as much. I prefer YouTube because there is encouragement here. You all can hear my voice, see my face, and hear what I'm saying, and not just judge whether you like or not what I wrote. And then you react to that as if I'm not a real human being, knowing that most people would not say these things to me in my face, but they'll say them strongly. We're just Grand Theft Auto America, man. We just gun down everyone that we disagree with and don't care about it, as if just like the game, it's all entertainment. But no, they're real human beings. Unlike the game Grand Theft Auto, we're real human beings made in the image of God, and people are affected by these things. Celebrities will be like, man, I just can't read the comment section because it'll throw me for a tailspin. Like, wow, that's how serious it is. Like negative comment. You can be a multi-millionaire and negative comments will affect you and you'll react to them and make you not want to. There's two sides of that coin, but I'm going to save that for another time. All right. I'm getting out of here. I'm about to go hang out with my family and bring in the new year, doing some stuff as a family. Again, appreciate you all. Thank you. I really wasn't taking YouTube serious, but Ruslan, the homie Ruslan, challenged me to step it up a little bit. And so I said, I'll do a little bit more. And then you all have been very encouraging, subscribing to the channel, liking. To the person who sent me the Venmo, I thanked you, but thank you. That was a humble thing. And I kind of needed that right now. There's a lot going on. I needed that bread. So thank you. Thank you. For the rest of you, man, I would love it if you continue to like and subscribe to the channel. Keep it going. I'm definitely going to be bringing you, Lord willing, some content in 2023. But enjoy your New Year's. I'm glad you got through 2022, as we all did, even though we had our bumps along the way. But I plan on giving y'all some content, Lord willing, in 2023. All right. Appreciate y'all, man. I know some of the comments in here. I'm going to check real quick. Future, appreciate you. Future's always look. I always know if Future shows up, encouragement's coming. This is the Barnabas. Future, she is Barnabas to me. And so I'm grateful for her. Future, thank you. Happy New Year to you, fam. It's actually Kurt with a C. You know, CK, like, you know, but you know, the love is there, though. The love is there. You know what I'm saying? Oh, you corrected it. Okay, I see you. You know what I'm saying? That's what's up. Man. Yeah. Yep. Good, man. Appreciate y'all. Yep. Ruslan definitely challenged me. All that. All of it. So, man, I appreciate y'all, though. Appreciate you. I'm looking forward to next year. See y'all next year, which is in, 7 hours, right? Looking forward to it. Got some crazy stuff coming up to talk about. But I appreciate y'all. Like and subscribe to the channel. Let everybody know. Thank you. Grace and peace, y'all. See y'all next year.